This is the best lawn leveling soil mix I've ever used. Now, obviously, I've not used it yet, but I'm preparing to use it right now on this area right behind me. It looks pretty flat, but I guarantee you, up close, there are some spots that are about 1 inch lower than everything else. When you're cutting your grass at 1 inch off the ground, it makes a big difference. I want to flatten those things out, but before I really get into the meat of this video, I need to tell you right up front, the only thing you need to level a lawn is just a little bit of sand. It's the simplest possible way to do it. It's still a lot of work, but it's probably the laziest way to do it. And it's the least beneficial to the lawn to do it that way. So as we get deep into this video, I want you to understand that this is the Ultra Mix. You don't have to go this far. Everything here is optional. What I got here is potting soil. This is really just potting soil. If we don't want to add seeds, weed seeds to our lawn space, we really need to make sure that we're using soil that is clean. Now, if I was leveling out like an acre of lawn space, it would be wildly too expensive to use bags like I'm doing right here. But for a small little area that's 250 square feet or so, it's just fine. And over there in my gray bucket is a whole bunch of sand. Now, I made a video about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago about which sand to use in your sand soil mix or just straight up sand leveling on the lawn. My choice is all-purpose masonry sand. If you want to learn more about it, link will be in the description to that video. Typically, if the native soil in your lawn is a sandy loam, then you can go up to, say, 70% sand to 30% soil as a rule of thumb. If you've got more of a clay soil, you want to be more in that 50-50 or 40% sand to 60% soil. The reason for that is if we're putting too much sand on top of a clay soil, then it's really going to create kind of like that layered cake feel. And in some cases, it might form too hard of a crust, almost like a little concrete kind of a thing. Not exactly concrete, but it's a layering that you don't want in your lawn. Keep the sand level down if you're on a clay soil. If you're on a sandy soil, then you can boost it up quite a bit. Now, if you also like the idea of adding more organic matter to your lawn like I do, you're going to keep that sand content down as well. So I'm going to be shooting for roughly a 50-50 mix of sand to soil, and I'm putting it on a sandy loam lawn. In these 2 bags of soil, we're looking at mostly composted wood products, forestry products like bark. We're looking at pine dust. We're looking at sawdust. We're looking at a little bit of peat moss. It's a potting mix, so there's even a little bit of perlite in here. But what I've got in here right now is the Dr. Earth pot of gold. That's the source of these bigger chunks of wood. The reason I wanted this is because it's got this true biotic, which is basically they're injecting beneficial soil microbes into the potting mix, plus mycorrhiza fungi. This organic planting soil, they call it planting soil. It does not have perlite in it, so it's more of a topsoil, more of something that you would put outside in a raised garden bed or a lawn. The reason I chose this is because not only does it have a lot of the same stuff in it, but it also contains kelp and alfalfa meal. Alfalfa meal is a product that naturally contains something called tricontinol that helps any plant growing in it to root down a little bit more substantially. Kelp is a good fertilizer, but it also contains a number of auxins in there and growth stimulants. It's going to not necessarily fertilize the grass, but the auxins in it are going to tell the grass to grow a little bit more, which is what we want when we're leveling the lawn. If we're going to put a whole bunch of stuff over our existing grass, we want that grass to be able to grow up through it. I'm going to be adding in a little bit of extra fertilizer into this. This bag of fertilizer is called E.B. Stone's Organics Citrus and Fruit Tree Food. Obviously, I'm not putting this on citrus or fruit trees, but it is a 733. The reason I'm putting this down is because it contains different additional strains of beneficial bacteria and beneficial mycorrhizal fungi. The reason that we want the mycorrhizal fungi in the lawn is because mycorrhizal fungi, they grow underground. It inoculates the root zone of the grass. These fungi will latch on to the root systems of the grass so that the grass transports energy that it creates, and it gives that energy to the fungi. But in return, the fungi spread out like a crazy web network underground, far deeper than the root systems of our grass can go. And it grabs nutrients from areas of the soil that the grass cannot reach on its own. And it gives those nutrients back to the grass. That's what we call a symbiotic relationship. And the more mycorrhizal fungi we have in the lawn, then the more our grass has access to nutrients that it couldn't reach otherwise. With this fertilizer, this also has alfalfa meal and kelp meal in it, along with blood meal, feather meal, bone meal. Those are things that are added in for the NPK. But because these are natural sources of nitrogen, there's not a large risk. There's almost no risk whatsoever of damaging the lawn. We're probably going to use less than half of this bag, somewhere around 6 pounds or so. Additionally, I'm going to be putting on straight humic acid. Along with the humic acid going on the grass and not in the soil mixture, I'm going to be putting down biochar. This is pine-sourced biochar, so it's a softwood. And the reason that we want biochar in the lawn, especially a little bit deeper in the lawn than that super duper top layer, is because biochar has little microscopic pores in it. And those microscopic pores are going to hold on to water and nutrients better than sand or anything else in the soil. Now, here's a product that I would put in if I had acidic soil. This is garden lime. Lime is what you put on the lawn if your soil is acidic and you want to bring it back up into the correct pH zone. On the flip side, if you had really alkaline soil, you could put some soil sulfur into the mix to bring that pH down. Now, the last main thing that I'm going to put on, I'm going to be putting down straight worm castings. We're putting this in there because it's got an enormous amount of life in there in the form of microbes and bacteria, and they make plant unavailable nutrients available for the plant. But really, the mixture needs to be dry. So all of this soil, all of this stuff that was in the bag, this was wet 10 days ago. I took it all out of the bag, I laid it all out on the tarp, laid it in the sun for it to dry. Once I get this on the lawn, I'm not even going to water it for days, maybe a week. I don't know, we'll see how it goes. But I want that grass to be able to grow through it before I start watering this. I just don't want to mulch down what I already have, because what I already have is pretty good. This company doesn't go by the name Plant Willow anymore. I believe they changed their name to Rosie. This is a granular humic acid. You find humic acid in a lot of stuff these days. Kind of looks like the biochar, a little bit more powdery. And now we just mix it up. It's my dirt mix. Like I said at the beginning of the video, this is probably the best dirt mix I've ever used to level a lawn. So instead of just dumping tons on the ground, I'm going to start with the lower areas. Just put a little bit of sand, a little bit of dirt, mix it together. Probably give it a day or two to sit, and then I'll add a little bit more. Essentially, I'm doing 2 scoops of that, 2 scoops of that. That's going to give me roughly a 50-50 mix. That looks really nice. Remember, everything that I'm doing in this video is extreme. You don't have to go this far at all to level the lawn. Sand is literally the only thing you need. But if you do want to choose a sand, watch this video up here. This is where I explain how to choose the right sand. Or maybe this video right here in the corner, which is about the mistakes people make leveling a lawn.